The House, Jesse Norman.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Will the Leader of the House give us the future business?
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I shall. Monday the 7th of April, general debate on road maintenance, followed by general debate on neighbourhood policing and tackling town centre crime. Tuesday the 8th of April, general debate on potential merits of awarding a posthumous Victoria Cross to Blair Main, followed by general debate on matters to be raised before the forthcoming adjournment. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. The House will rise for the Easter recess at the conclusion of business on Tuesday the 8th of April and return on Tuesday the 22nd of April. The business for the week commencing the 21st of April includes Tuesday the 22nd of April, second reading of the Sentencing Guidelines Pre-Sentence Reports Bill. Wednesday the 23rd of April, Opposition Day, 6th allotted day, debate on a motion in the name of the Liberal Democrats, subject to be announced. Thursday the 24th of April, remaining stages of the Bank Resolution Recapitalisation Bill, Lords. Friday the 25th of April, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 28th of April will include Monday the 28th of April, second reading of the Football Governance Bill, Lords. Tuesday the 29th of April, remaining stages of the Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill. Wednesday the 30th of April, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Sentencing Guidelines Pre-Sentence Reports Bill. Thursday the 1st of May, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday the 2nd of May, the House will not be sitting.
So, Leader of the House.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. It's some weeks away yet, but this is the last moment I will have to wish you and all members of this House and staff a very happy Easter. I hope I may do that. Easter's a joyous occasion, full of families and possibly inappropriate amounts of chocolate. I will be making Shadow Leader's legendary hot cross buns. I should say, not very much of the mix actually makes it into the oven, but that's part of the joy. It is lucky, however, Mr. Speaker, that we have several weeks to look forward to Easter, because this week has not been one of joy, I think it's fair to say, and we'll be debating tariffs later, but obviously we've had the impact of the national insurance rises, which have pushed up costs, raising inflation, making it harder than ever to hire a new employee, blocking routes into work for young people. But my question is, what on earth is happening in Birmingham? As the House will recall, the Birmingham City Council is now in the 5th week of a strike with the union Unite over bin collections. Apparently this matter concerns just a few dozen out of some 9,500 City Council employees, but, as the House has heard, 17,000 tonnes of rubbish have piled up so far, growing by a reported 900 tonnes a week. And let's not forget, Mr. Speaker, that Birmingham's bin collections were reportedly 3.5 times worse than the worst of other councils even before the strike took place. The public health implications are now so dire that the council has declared a major incident. And of course, this comes on top of two other recent fiascos. The Athletes' Village in Perry Bar was built by the City Council to host competitors during the Commonwealth Games. In 2022, it was never used and sold with a reported loss to taxpayers of about £320 million. Birmingham City Council tried to install a shiny new Oracle IT system. The result was a disaster whose costs are set to reach £216 million by April 2026, according to a report by academics at Sheffield University. As a city, Birmingham is technically bankrupt. It has been controlled by Labour for well over a decade. But my point is not about the council. It's about the government. The Minister for Local Government let the cat out of the bag in his statement on this topic on Tuesday. He said Birmingham's waste service has been in urgent need of modernisation and transformation for many years. Practices in the waste service have been the source of one of the largest equal pay crises in modern history, resulting in costs of over £1 billion to the residents of Birmingham. This situation simply cannot continue. The Prime Minister went further in his own remarks yesterday, saying the situation in Birmingham is completely unacceptable. But neither the Minister nor the Prime Minister has yet offered any criticism at all of Unite, whose action is the cause of all this rotting refuse in the streets. Unite was Labour's biggest union donor before the general election, giving £553,900 to a total of 86 MPs, although not to the Leader of the House, I am very pleased to say. Does the Leader think there could be any relationship between the government's reluctance to call out Unite now on this disastrous situation in Birmingham and the £500,000 in donations that its MPs have just received? Now, some members of this House may see this whole situation as eerily reminiscent of the 1970s, and especially Labour's winter of discontent in 1978-9, when striking bin men caused refuse to pile up across major cities, including Birmingham. But my worry is not about the past, it's about the future. Labour consistently backed public sector union strikes when they were in opposition, a point the Prime Minister conveniently forgot to mention yesterday. Now they are in power, however, they have thrown money at the unions hand over fist with little or no negotiated improvements. Let's not forget that Northern Rail have even said their union agreements require them to use fax machines in dealing with the unions. There is a very serious point here, Mr. Speaker. At this moment, the government is abolishing NHS England and taking direct control of the NHS itself. Does anyone seriously think that a government that is incapable of calling out its union donors over bin collections will have any ability at all to withstand pressure from the same and other union donors on the NHS? What will that do to cost control and productivity, to public spending and to inflation? I would be grateful if the Leader could reflect on these issues in her remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and can I also join the Shadow Leader in wishing everybody a very happy Easter, and hope that people do resist eating too much chocolate and hot cross buns, especially those many members who are on diets at this time of year as well, Mr. Speaker. But I think actually today is a day that we should all reflect, really, because we do face unprecedented times which have the potential to change the global trade consensus of the last 80 years that have brought this country and most Western countries a great deal of prosperity. And we're still assessing and processing exactly what the new tariffs announced will mean for British businesses, and we'll shortly hear from the Trade Secretary about that in more detail. But just as President Trump is acting in what he believes is his national interest, we will always act in our national interest, and we will do whatever is necessary to protect British jobs, British businesses and British consumers. And I'm sure he will agree with me that in any eventuality, securing the long-sought economic deal with our closest partner, the US, which the Prime Minister has been leading now for many months, is in our national interest, and I'm sure the whole House will support him in those endeavours. And as the Shadow Leader says, this is the start of a new financial year this week, and the annual uprating of bills, and it's also a very worrying time for families. The cost of living crisis is not yet over, and many people will be wondering, as the months begin, how long their paycheck will last. And we have inherited a very difficult situation, and the global trade war will not help that. But we are determined to protect working people, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're all about. We're about making work pay with our Employment Rights Bill. We've seen a £1,400 a year increase to the national living wage, and for young people, the national minimum wage up to £10 an hour. That's an unprecedented uplift. And the state pension will this week increase by £470. And we will take the action that we need to do to get our bills down in the long term, whether that's water, energy and elsewhere. He raises the situation in Birmingham. I was in Birmingham just last weekend visiting my in-laws and my husband's family, and the situation there is totally unacceptable. It is awful what people are living with, and we want to see it end immediately. And I'm happy to say to the Honourable, I have no problem in saying that the trade union there, Unite, they absolutely need to step up here and get back round the table. and come to an agreement. I think there is a reasonable agreement on the table, and the trade union and the council should come to that very quickly. But I do gently say to the Honourable, I don't think the situation in Birmingham actually paints anybody in particular glory, and I think to make some party political point about it doesn't serve him too well, because actually I think the Honourable gentleman and other members opposite might have a short memory, but this is a failure of successive leadership of the council, including and actually particularly the Tory Lib Dem coalition of the early 2000s, which was a critical phase. It was a critical phase in resolving the equality pay dispute, which other councils at that time, including Manchester and other cities, during that period dealt with, and they ducked their head in the sands about it. And you know, if he wants to have a discussion about local government finances and what's happened, I mean, under his government again, local government absolutely starved of finances for 14 years. Month after month, we saw councils going bust under his government, including Tory councils like Northamptonshire and Thurrock and other Tory councils as well. We put record investment into local government. We will be bringing forward a devolution bill later this year, which will also include further measures around auditing of local finances there as well. But, Mr Speaker, honestly, for the honourable gentleman to raise with me the impact of industrial action on working people of this country after what his government resided over, in our NHS, in our rail, we saw more days of industrial action under the Conservative government than we have seen under Labour, because that's what they want to do. Every time cause conflict, have industrial action. We've seen an end to the industrial action in our NHS, and that's why we've seen waiting lists go down every single month for 5 months. That's why we've seen another 2 million doctors' appointments, because the strike action ended. And under his watch, when the rail companies boasted about free cash from the government for their rail contracts, and we had record days lost by industrial action, we've put an end to that. We've got this country back working in the interests of working people, and I'll take no lectures from him.
Mishra.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I wish you a early happy Easter, and all the staff and colleagues in the chamber and outside a happy Easter. Mr Speaker, Sky is a household name in Britain and has millions of customers. I'm proud to represent Stockport in Parliament, and Sky is a major employer in our town. Unfortunately, we've had the announcement last week that almost 2,000 jobs at Sky are at risk in the UK operations, with 545 roles in Stockport and more in Leeds and Sheffield impacted. I've been working with the colleagues from Sheffield Central, Leeds Central, and my immediate neighbour from Hazel Grove on trying to support staff impacted. And there are serious questions that have been raised with me by Sky employees over the level of mass redundancies, the process being leaked to media outlets before all staff were made aware, and the unclear level of support that's on offer to members of staff. This will have a detrimental impact to the economies and the communities in Stockport, Sheffield and Leeds. As such, can I request the Leader of the House to allocate government time for a debate on Sky and how they treat their hard-working, loyal staff members?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the redundancies at Sky in his constituency, which I know will affect his constituents as well as some of mine nearby as well. And he's doing his job as a constituency MP in raising these important matters here on the floor of the House. And I'm sure the company will have heard his concerns about how this was communicated, I think, via the media before it went to staff and employees, and that's something that's just not acceptable. That's one of the reasons we're bringing forward our Employment Rights Bill, to ensure that people and workers do have more rights in these circumstances, and that employers have obligations to ensure that redundancies are handled sensitively and in the interests of people in the long term.
Goldman, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On the 15th of April, we will be marking the 36th anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster and remembering the lives of the 97 people who tragically lost their lives on that dark day, as well as their families' subsequent fight for justice. Last September, the Prime Minister made a commitment that the Hillsborough law would be introduced to Parliament before we reach this anniversary. Introducing a duty of candour for public servants and public bodies is long overdue. It will help stop future cover-ups, and it's vital that the legislation delivers on the commitments made to Hillsborough families in a meaningful way. So can the leader update the House on whether legislation will be introduced before we rise for Easter recess next week, and if not, when we can realistically expect it? Great.
Well, can I thank her for raising this issue with me, which was raised with me also last week in business questions by the Honourable Member for Widnes and Halewood. She's absolutely right. As we approach the anniversary of the Hillsborough tragedy, we should remember the 97 lives lost, all the families affected, but also the years and years of fighting for justice and for accountability that the families have then suffered since, frankly, in the face of the state, in most cases, fighting against them. And that's something that we should all endeavour to put right. And as she says, the Prime Minister and the government, the whole government, myself included, we remain focused on fulfilling our commitment to the Hillsborough families, on bringing forward and enacting a Hillsborough law, which of course includes, as she says, a duty of candour at all times, a very important measure to take forward. But I think the most important issue at this time is to ensure that the legislation reflects the full range of concerns and experiences and meets the expectations of the families. I think the very worst thing we could do at this point in time is to not meet those expectations when all of the trust and issues there are about the state failing to live up to those expectations of the family. So we are working on the bill at pace, but we will take whatever time is necessary to work collaboratively with the families and their representatives, because getting that legislation right is actually our overwhelming priority at this time. I'm sure she can understand that.
Kirsteen Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, Whitburn Band, from a former mining town in my constituency of Bathgate and Linlithgow, won the Scottish Brass Band Championships for the third time in 4 years. Wow. They will represent Scotland at the National Brass Band Championships in London and the European Brass Band Championships next year. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Whitburn Band on their remarkable achievement, wishing them the very best of luck as they represent Scotland, and make time for a debate on the important contribution of brass bands to our musical heritage in communities across the UK?
Well, absolutely. Can I join her in congratulating the Whitburn Brass Band as the Scottish Brass Band Championships, and wish them all the very best in the UK-wide National Brass Band Championship. And if I might say, Mr. Speaker, she's doing a fantastic job of blowing the trumpet on behalf of her constituents in this case. It's Easter. And I wish them all the best in that championship.
Bob Blackman, Chair of the Backbench Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the business that the Leader has announced, it is disappointing, I have to say, that we've not got the 24th of April. And my reading of that is that it's not a non-controversial bill and likely to finish early. That means we're going to be denied the opportunity to have a debate on St George's Day, which is, of course, on the 23rd of April, or a debate on Parkinson's Awareness Month, which is in April. However, when we come back on the 1st of May, we are contemplating organising 3 90-minute debates, given that it's local election day and colleagues may wish to be elsewhere campaigning, and at least that would allow some of the debates we've got in the queue to be debated. It would also help, Mr. Speaker, if the Leader could actually confirm when the Estimates Day debates will be in May, because by my reckoning, there's only about 4 dates that it could be, and we have to both advertise the opportunity for people to apply and also then decide which debates will be chosen. Now, in addition, the business in Westminster Hall on Tuesday the 8th will be a debate on persecution of Christians. When we come back on the 22nd of April, there'll be a debate on residential estate management companies, and I remind colleagues that that will be Monday hours, so the debate will start at 11:30 rather than 9:30. And on Thursday the 24th, a debate on Lesbian Visibility Week, and followed by a debate on trading relationship with the European Union. Quite topical given the tariff arrangements that have just been announced. And on Tuesday the 29th of April, there'll be debate on compensation for criminal injuries. Now, Mr Speaker, most of our allies, including the United States, have indicated their objection to the appointment or reappointment of Francesca Albanese as the special UN rapporteur to the occupied territories. This is a woman who has attempted to justify the atrocities on the 7th of October 2023, repeatedly excused the atrocities committed by terrorists, yet is apparently going to be reappointed by the UN. At the moment, our allies, of course, have called this out, but there's been total silence from the Foreign Secretary or any of our ministers. So could we ask for a statement on what the government is going to do to instruct our representative in the UN to how they will vote, and indeed if they will register their strong objections to her reappointment?
The chair of the Backbench Business Committee, as ever, for organising so many well-attended and good debates. He asked about the 24th of April. I'm sure he could recognise that with the bank holiday that week and the 2 weeks later, we do have a number of short weeks, and we have a lot of government business to get through, and given the Tuesday is more like a Monday, I'm afraid on this occasion that the Thursday is more like a Wednesday, and that's why it's not been allocated to the Backbench Business Committee. But I do hear what he says about St George's Day, and I'm happy to have a conversation with him about that. And as ever, I will try and give him advance notice as much as I can about the estimates debates. And can I thank him for raising the issue that he has regarding the UN raconteur. He will, I'm sure, appreciate that what I will say is that these issues are a matter for the UN. However, I will ensure that the Foreign Office have heard his questions today, as I'm sure his constituents have. And can I join him in saying that any comments of the like that he describes are not one that I or the government would find in general to be acceptable.
Just to help the House, I think, probably if we say another hour now, thereabouts. So it might, hopefully, we'll get everybody in if we help each other. Let's have a good example of that, Dave Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Netherstowe School in my constituency, my old school, has just completed a consultation on closing its sixth form provision. This has caused a huge amount of stress for kids who are prepping for their GCSEs and don't now know where they'll be able to do their A-levels. The other school sixth forms in Lichfield at the Friary and King Edwards are all already very heavily oversubscribed, and there is a risk that we are going to have a lack of academic places for people to do A-levels when they reach 16. A month ago, I asked Conservative-controlled Staffordshire County Council to share their planning for how many sixth form places and academic places that we need in Lichfield, information that they have completely failed to provide. I need to know that there is a plan for everybody who reaches 16 to be able to take the courses that are appropriate for them. Can the Minister arrange for me to meet with the relevant Minister to urgently discuss post-16 provision in Lichfield?
I will try and keep my answers short, sorry, Mr Speaker, but I'm really sorry to hear about the closure of Netherstowe School's sixth form. I know that A-level provision is a challenge in many areas, and it sounds like it is in Lichfield. The Minister for Further Education, Minister Jackie Smith, I'm sure will be happy to meet with him, and I'm happy to arrange that for him.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Whilst inequalities during pregnancy and childbirth have reduced, they still remain a cause of concern for pregnant women of ethnic minorities. According to latest data, black women are 2.8 times more likely to die during and up to 6 weeks after their pregnancy. Asian women are 1.7 times more likely to die during the same period. Ethnic minority women also have higher stillbirth rates and various other complications. Will the Leader of the House kindly make time for a debate to explore these health inequalities and racial disparities?
Well, can I thank her for raising a very important issue, one that I know has caused considerable concern and debate across this House over a number of years. She's absolutely right to identify the relatively poorer outcomes for those of black and ethnic minority background when it comes to maternal health. This government is committed to addressing those, and I'm happy to keep her updated on that progress.
Peter Swallow.
May I take this opportunity to thank First Priesthood Brownies, First Priesthood Guys, the Ways Youth Centre and all those who took part in Bracknell Town Council's Great British Spring Clean Litter Pick last weekend. Will the leader join me in thanking litter pickers in Bracknell and across the country for all they do to keep our communities clean?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely join him in congratulating the Brownies, of which I was once one, and all of those who took part in the spring cleaning efforts in Bracknell, and join him in bringing to the floor of the House that today.
Stephen Flynn.
Much to my surprise, but perhaps to the relief of the Prime Minister, Prime Minister's questions yesterday, not a single member of this House raised the fact that energy bills have once again increased. In fact, on the Labour Party's watch, they've gone up £281, despite their pre-election promise to reduce them by £300. So perhaps the Leader of the House can afford us all a debate on government time as to this latest broken promise from the Labour Party.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see the honourable gentleman here today. I'm not sure how his promise to sort of stay committed to this House is faring, because I think he's now had another flip-flop on that particular promise himself, but I hear he's still going for that second job. But look, I mean, for as long as he is here, he's asked if I would miss him. I would miss him greatly. I'm sure the whole House would miss him greatly. But he raises an important issue, which is energy bills, and he will know this government is absolutely determined to lower our bills, to create the jobs of the future, to get our energy security. We are still, as a country, far too exposed to international gas prices, as we are seeing as energy bills increase this year, and that's why we're even more determined than ever, and of course I'm sure he will join us in ensuring that we've got that clean, renewable energy of the future, which is the only way that we'll get lower bills.
Melanie Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Leader of the House please share when the Government will publish the impact assessment on the assisted dying bill? And can she further update the House on current plans for report stage and third reading of the assisted dying bill?
Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a number of members have raised this with me through the last couple of weeks, and I think it's been raised with me last week in business questions. And as I said then, regarding the impact assessment, given the close scrutiny this bill has had in committee and the number of amendments that have been accepted from all sides in the debate, it will require significant work by the government to get the impact assessment ready, but we are absolutely committed to doing so in time for report stage. She asks about the future progress of the bill. She will know that report stage of this private member's bill is on the order paper for the 25th of April. It is a matter for the House to decide on the progress of that bill, and I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, that as you so ably chaired the debate at second reading as well, this House will come together in that debate, hopefully chaired by yourself, Mr. Speaker, let's see, and really have a respectful debate where people can contribute and make their views heard, and that we can show the public that we actually can come together and discuss these issues.
Stephen Ball.
The Active Learning Trust is closing the sixth form Neil Wade Academy, which will be harmful to social mobility in Finland. Given the member for Lichfield raised a similar point, can we have a statement on what action education ministers and the regional schools director can take to ensure that the Active Learning Trust, over which there are serious questions, put in place a recovery plan and are much more transparent about how their decisions are being reached?
Well, he raises an important issue for his constituents and for many others around the Active Learning Trust and the provision in his constituency. I will make sure that the Minister is in touch with him. As he says, the Regional Schools Commissioner, as well as ministers, should ensure there is adequate provision that is of a high standard, and that trusts like the Active Learning Trust are held to account for those issues, which is one of the reasons that we're bringing forward the Children and Wellbeing Bill, to make sure that accountability for these trusts is really there.
Emma Food.
Mr. Speaker, one of the biggest issues raised with me in my constituency is the availability of council and social housing. In Conservative-led Northumberland, a recent FOI found that there were over 300 void council properties in South East Northumberland alone, with £750,000 lost in rental income. The failure not only wastes money but leaves people languishing on waiting lists, often in inappropriate housing. Can we have a debate on how we ensure council properties aren't standing empty for months on end, costing local taxpayers and limiting income that could be spent improving services?
Well, she's absolutely right to raise the issue of void council homes in her constituency. As she said, these are homes that could be housing those desperately in need of a social home, and also the loss of income that involves as well. We are putting extra money into local government to ensure that they've got the capital and revenues to bring these homes back into use, but we're also committed to ensuring that we have more affordable and social housing for all her constituents.
Mr. Smart.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the House may remember that on the 5th of December I raised the issue of adopters and not being eligible for any financial support from the government if they're self-employed. The Leader of the House helpfully recommended that I lay down an amendment to the Employment Rights Bill, which I did, and I've also had a Westminster Hall debate on the issue, and I've raised it with the Minister at the dispatch box. At every stage, every member of the government has mentioned a parental leave review. In response to a written question this week, the Minister Madders suggested that this would start in due course. Can I ask the Minister what format will the review take, and what's the timetable for conclusion so that all members can participate?
Well, can I thank her for pursuing this issue through all those different means. She's an example to many other new members as to how to take forward an issue across a range of opportunities in this House. I will ensure that she gets a fuller response from the Minister about the time scale and how members can be involved in that.
Dr. Maria Timble.
Many thanks, Mr. Speaker. A retired postmistress in my constituency served our communities at the post office in Parson Cross from 1994 to 2002 and was affected by the Horizon scandal, leaving her mentally and physically unwell. She has not been paid the compensation she is owed from the fixed sum payment scheme. Please, can the Leader of the House advise me on how I can help my constituent and her husband Michael to expedite access to their compensation payment?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that her constituents haven't had their compensation payment. I do know that over 5,000 victims have had their payments made so far, but we certainly have more to do. She'll recognise that this government actually set aside for the first time the proper amount of money necessary, but I'll ensure that her case is expedited.
Sir Roger Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand that following the conversion from paper visas to e-visas, members of the Ukrainian community in the United Kingdom who are refugees are having very considerable difficulty because of IT failures within the Home Office system in renewing their visas. We're leaving them without effectively any proof of status. I know the Leader of the House is sympathetic to their plight. Would she be kind enough to ask the Home Secretary, given the shortage of time between now and the recess, if the Home Secretary would make a written statement to clarify the position for everybody?
I wasn't aware of the issue that he raised, and I know the matter of Ukrainian visas will be of concern to many members across this House, and I thank him for raising it. I will absolutely ensure that the Home Office consider a written ministerial statement or some other means to communicate an update on this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently met with Heart Savers, a credit union providing affordable loans and saving products all across Hertfordshire, and of their near 3,000 members, I'm very proud that a majority are in my community in Welwyn Hatfield. They are making a particular difference to young families with access to loans to people who are in receipt of child benefit. So would the Leader of the House join me in paying thanks to the trustees of Heart Savers Credit Union who are working so hard to make sure that people have access to affordable finance in my community?
Absolutely join him in thanking the trustees of Heart Savers in his constituency. Credit unions are incredibly popular, a really important part of our constituents having access to loans and to finance when they otherwise wouldn't get it. And I'm sure this would make a very popular topic of a debate if you wanted to have one.
Let's have a roll.
I think the House should know that, unlike England, Welsh public services are not fully protected from the cost of increased employers' national insurance contributions. This is because compensation from the Treasury doesn't take into account Wales's bigger public sector. This means Wales is losing out on 65 million. Can we have a debate as to why it's fair that the NHS in England is getting more money proportionally than the NHS in Wales?
Well, she will know, I'm sure, that as a result of this government's budget, we delivered a record £21 billion settlement for the Welsh Government, the biggest in the history of devolution. And this has allowed additional funds to go directly to the NHS in Wales and elsewhere, and I'm sure that that will come through the system very soon.
I have to notify the House, in accordance with the Royal Assent Act 1967, that the King has signified his royal assent to the following acts and measures: Church of Scotland, Lord High Commissioner Act 2025, Tourism, Protection of Premises Act 2025, National Insurance Contributions, Secondary Class 1 Contributions Act 2025, Non-Domestic Rating Multipliers and Private Schools Act 2025, Chancel Repair, Church Commissioners Liability Measure 2025, Church Funds Investment Measure 2025. Bel Rabiradi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've met many leaseholders fighting for fair treatment from housing association freeholders such as Metropolitan Thames Valley, Housing, Hyde, L&Q, Notting Hill, Genesis, Aptivo and Peabody, to name a few. They're struggling just to secure general repairs, issues with damp and mould, and getting transparency over rising charges to their service charge, it running right into the thousands. Such behaviour from a landlord or council would be considered unacceptable, yet housing associations are continuing to act with impunity, and past leasehold reform legislation has done little to address these issues. Can the Leader of the House assure leaseholders in my constituency that the government will be taking legislative steps to ensure that they are able to hold their housing association freeholders to account?
Well, absolutely. The plight of leaseholders gets raised with me in these sessions regularly, and also I represent many tens of thousands of leaseholders myself in Manchester Central. This government is committed to bringing forward a draft leasehold reform bill. We've just recently published our Common Hold white paper, and the Minister laid to the House an extensive written ministerial statement which outlined how he was enacting the previous Leasehold Act. We absolutely need to go further to protect leaseholders, and she's right to raise that with me today. Mr. Speaker, given that you've just announced the royal assent of a number of now acts, can I just put on record, for the purposes of the House, and because Figen Murray is here in the public gallery, my thanks to Figen Murray on all her tireless campaigning for Martin's Law, which is now an act. It will protect many, many venues across the country, and I'm absolutely delighted that across Manchester we've had a voluntary scheme which has already prevented some incidents from happening. So I'm sure the whole House will want to pay our respects to Figen Murray and the Martin's Law that is now an act.
Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given this week that the OBR confirmed that the tariffs announced have not been factored into the forecast, nor has the effect of the Employment Rights Bill. And given my experience talking to local businesses in Salisbury last Friday at the budget breakfast that I've done for the last 8 years, they're very concerned about the cumulative impact of of the Employment Rights Bill on top of the National Insurance changes, could we have a statement from a Treasury Minister on the need to revise the forecasts of the OBR and the implications for tax increases that are now all but certain in the autumn?
Well, look, we've only just had the spring statement last week, and the OBR has forecast that over that forecasting period the economy will grow faster than expected, actually. He might not like our Employment Rights Bill, but I'm afraid on this side of the House we stand proud behind it, because we have a firm belief that making work pay and giving people dignity and security at work is how we will boost our economy and boost growth as well. I'm not going to get into sort of speculation about what may or may not happen in the future, but I would just gently say to the honourable gentleman, you know, who I respected greatly as a minister, but he was part of a government that did preside over a huge crash in our economy and all the problems that came from it at that time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With thoughts turning to Easter, can I recommend to members who might not already have plans for Easter sorted a visit to my beautiful constituency of Carlisle and North Cumbria, in particular to RSPB Geltsdale, where you will see the award-winning Howgill Beck Restoration Project, which just last night was awarded winner of the UK Rivers Award. This is a fantastic restoration project that has restored the wetlands. You'll see native species have returned to the environment. It's a stunning part of North Cumbria, and will the Leader of the House please join me in congratulating the RSPB and all their partners on this wonderful project?
Well, absolutely join her in congratulating the RSBP in Geltsdale and Howgill Beck, which sounds fantastic. I am actually a member of the RSPB, in part because my son is a bit of a keen twitcher, so I'm sure he'll be nagging me to pay a visit to her constituency and see this fantastic project.
Alicia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night I attended the meeting for worship at Westminster Quaker Meeting House. This place of worship was forcefully raided by 20 police officers last Thursday, equipped with tasers, and they've arrested 6 women and charged them in relation to planning a peaceful protest. This raises important questions about the criminalisation of public protest and indeed religious freedom. Can we have a debate in government time on the need to repeal those elements of the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act 2022 and the Public Order Act 2023, which have such a repressive effect on the right to peaceful protest, which is such a cornerstone of British democracy?
Well, I'm sure she wouldn't expect me to comment on that particular case because, of course, they are operational matters for the police. But she's right to say that the right to protest is a fundamental part of our democracy, one that we hold dear. But we do have to balance the right to protest with protecting the law-abiding majority's right to go about their daily lives as well, free from disruption. So in that regard, that's the comment I'll give her in.
Charlotte Littles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2018, Warrington Borough Council applied for and was successful with a proposal for a new 56-place special free school for pupils with high-functioning autism spectrum disorder whose needs cannot be met in our current provisions. The free school was part of an expansion plan to address this issue, and the implications of dither and delay from the DfE have also exacerbated the funding challenges the local authority and our schools face with sending pupils to out-of-borough independent placements, costing circa £8.5 million from the high needs budget in 2024. Could we have a debate in government time on the process for opening new schools and ensuring that SEND pupils and their families can have their needs met in their own boroughs?
Well, I'm sorry to hear of the challenges the free school in Warrington, designed to support those with autism and special educational needs, are having in her constituency. I'm sure she'll recognise that the situation we inherited was one that was not delivering for parents, not delivering outcomes, and was on its knees as well in terms of that SEND provision, which gets raised with me regularly in these sessions. I will ensure she gets an update from the Minister on this particular application and hope that it can be expedited.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night, I, along with colleagues from across the House representing constituencies in northern Lincolnshire and East Yorkshire, met with the Humber Energy Board, and representatives from the board were particularly concerned about delays in support for a number of projects that are pending government support in the region. And this is particularly important in respect of the potential job losses at Scunthorpe. Could we have a debate or statement from the Business Secretary about support for a number of energy projects in the Humber?
Well, can I thank you for raising that? I'm sure he will recognise that this government has done more to create opportunity, jobs and investment in the energy opportunities of the future than the previous government did in 14 years. And we are committed to ensure that those places like the Humber and Humberside more generally that powered this country in the past will do so again in the clean energy sprint that we are embarked on. But I will ensure he gets an update from the Minister about what's happening in those particular issues.
Very good.
Land-based gambling shops represent a silent crisis up and down this country, targeting some of our most disadvantaged and deprived communities. So will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Mo Butt and Millie Patel, the Leader and Deputy Leader of Brent Council, for their campaign to reform the Gambling Act to protect our high streets from rapacious gambling and betting shops, which have now been supported by leaders of more than 30 other councils? And can we have a debate in government time about the need to change the presumption that exists in the 2005 Act that says councils should aim to permit such licences?
Well, can I thank him for raising the work of Brent Council and the leadership of Brent Council there in addressing some of the issues and challenges that do present on our high streets and our communities from problem gambling. There are, I don't know the exact, where we're exactly up to with reforms to the Gambling Act, but I will ensure that he gets a full update on that.
Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 6th of February, I asked the Leader of the House if she would use every lever in her power to ensure that this House had a debate on the climate emissions framework before any new airport expansion was given the green light, including at Luton Airport. The Leader of the House replied saying, and I quote, "I will ensure that any decisions are brought to this House first for scrutiny by her and others." And yet, Mr. Speaker, it has been reported this morning that the government is intending to give the green light to Luton Airport expansion via a letter on the National Infrastructure Planning website at 2 p.m. in less than 3 hours, with no debate at all. I would like to ask the Leader of the House whether this is true, and if so, why there has been no debate on government time about the climate emissions framework, as the Leader of the House had promised.
Well, I think, as I said to her at the time, the matters of individual applications by airports are a sort of quasi-judicial decision for the Secretary of State, who it's difficult, therefore, to comment in advance of them. Absolutely, all those decisions are taken in the context of our climate commitments, as well as other factors as well, our legally binding climate commitments. I don't know about the press reporting that she's mentioned today, but I will ensure that she and the House are updated on those decisions.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 10 young people confidently presented at my Pitch Your Policy event in Rugby, and I promised to take the winning idea to Parliament and ministers. Theo Speed won with his policy of extending voting rights to those with settled status. Izzy Hart came second with her policy of funding and support for people known to and working with children's services. And in third place, Molly Wall suggested more resources for political education in the national curriculum. So will the Leader join me in congratulating all who participated? And does she agree that my event shows that young people have the ideas and skills to be the architects of the future, that we need to listen to them more and focus additional resources on the next generation through the National Youth Strategy, and perhaps even a dedicated Minister for Youth sitting next to her at the Cabinet table?
Well, can I congratulate Theo, Izzy and Molly on their success in the Pitch Your Policy event, and I think he's absolutely right. This just shows that young people have a huge amount to contribute to the political debate in this country. It's one of the reasons why I'm and this government are committed to votes at 16, because we think young people of 16 who want to and are able to contribute to our political debate should be given the opportunity to do so. I might not extend so much democracy in amongst my own teenagers at home, if he doesn't mind, but I think he makes a very important point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the same day as the closure of the sustainable farming incentive, without the notice that the government had promised, ministers announced the end of the fruit and vegetable aid scheme. This provided matched funding for capital investments and was vital for the competitiveness of English growers. Similar schemes exist in Scotland and Wales and continue in Europe. So can we have an urgent debate on this incredibly foolish decision?
Well, I mean, on the sustainable farming incentive, he will know that this and other schemes, that the previous government underspent in these schemes, and we went out of our way to make sure that farmers knew they were available and applied to them, which is why we had to close this scheme early. But we are bringing forward a range of schemes going forward, because food security and supporting our farmers in this country is absolutely important to this government, and we will ensure that they are sustained.
Rachel Taylor.
Mr. Speaker, I'm really concerned by reports on social media that a disabled person in a wheelchair in Bedworth was stranded because their bus didn't show up and several taxis refused to take a wheelchair. I'm sick and tired of hearing how my vulnerable constituents are let down by Warwickshire's buses. This is why I launched my petition to bring buses back into public control. But we must look at issues facing disabled people when using transport. I'd like to ask the Leader of the House if she would make time for a debate on access to taxis for people using wheelchairs.
Well, I'm sorry to hear of the experience that her constituent has had, and I support her endeavours in terms of the Warwickshire buses, and that's why we've got the bus services bill currently progressing in the House of Lords. But she's absolutely right to raise issues around accessibility for those with disabilities when it comes to public transport, and that includes taxis, and I think it would make a very good topic for a debate.
Helen Morgan.
North Shropshire is home to some historic and beautiful market towns, and I can recommend a visit over Easter. But I've been contacted by some high street retailers, particularly Niche Patisserie and the Covent Garden Fruit and Veg Company, who are concerned about the double whammy of business rates increasing and NIC hikes happening this week. And they're worried about the impact on high streets, who are also facing the closure of post offices and banks. So could we have a debate in government time on how we radically reform business rates to bring our high streets back to life?
Leader.
Well, this government is committed to business rate reform. We've already taken through a piece of legislation that begins that process by creating a new lower level of business rates, as well as a higher band as well for some of those much larger businesses, but there's further that we need to go. We have retained the discount into next year, but I appreciate that for high street businesses, for businesses in our town centres, these are difficult times, but this government is committed to ensure that we protect and support businesses and working people.
Andy Macdonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I note the government has today issued a best value notice to the Tees Valley Mayoral Combined Authority. Concerns around governance, financial mismanagement and procurement have been voiced over a number of years, and yet Mayor Ben Ouchin has resisted the demands for openness and transparency. Indeed, just last Friday, he openly called questioning members of the public idiots and deemed their questions insane. That all changes today. But will the leader consider a debate in government time for this House to consider how we balance our laudable further devolution ambitions with the need for a much more robust system of oversight and accountability?
Well, first of all, can I pay tribute to the Honourable Gentleman? He's been a tireless campaigner on these issues around accountability and transparency in the Tees Valley Mayoral Combined Authority, and I'm sure I will join him in welcoming the fact that we have today issued the best value notice, and he should take some credit for that and the work that he has done over many years. Ministers do welcome improvements that have recently been made, but there is much further to go, and as he says, this is the beginning of that process. Later this year we will be publishing our devolution bill, which will include aspects of accountability and audit there as well, and I'm sure he'll welcome to debate that at the time.
John Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Could we have a debate about the importance of local swimming pools? Sadly, the much-loved Jedburgh Laidlaw Memorial Swimming Pool closed at the end of last year due to rising costs. Hundreds of local residents recently attended a public meeting in the town to show their support for reopening this swimming pool. Like me, does the Leader of the House take the view that learning to swim is an important life skill? And could she encourage colleagues within government to open up dedicated funding to support local swimming pools?
Well, absolutely we'll join him in saying that learning to swim is a really important life skill, and also water safety is as well alongside that, and I'm really sorry to hear that his local swimming pool has closed. He will, I'm sure, recognise that funding for swimming pools and sports facilities like this is devolved in Scotland, and that the Scottish Government actually has got the level of money now that it really could provide more support for communities like him to ensure that his constituents can learn to swim and get those life skills.
Calvin Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Growth and job creation are central to rebuilding this country. On Monday, the Office for Rail and Road found that the cross-channel rail network could achieve higher capacity. This is an exciting opportunity for my constituency of Leighton and Wanstead, as the potential doubling of Leighton Mills Depot offers opportunities for meaningful local jobs and strengthening of our European relationships. I've written to the Rail Minister and look forward to his reply, but seizing these opportunities is crucial. Could the Leader of the House support a debate on the expansion of HS1 services in order to hear the totality of the benefits that could offer us across the UK?
Well, he's made an incredibly strong case for the expansion of HS1 services and all the benefits that these boosts to cross-channel rail links would provide to his constituents and indeed the wider economy, and so I will ensure that the Minister updates him, and actually when there are important developments in this regard that the House is updated.
Pete Wishart.
Speaker, today the consultation on the UK Internal Market Act closes, introduced by Boris Johnson to constrain devolution at the height of the Brexit chaos. It is equally loathed by the SNP Scottish Government and the Labour Party Welsh Government. For some reason, abolition of the UK internal market wasn't included on the terms of reference. So when the Government responds to this consultation, will they make sure that option appears and we get the opportunity to get rid of this awful devolution-destroying Act?
Well, I remember well that bill passing through these houses and some of those issues being raised. Of course, the government will respond fully to these issues and make sure that the settlement that we have in this country works for the whole of the UK, and that we have a strong internal market, as well as getting all the benefits that we can now get from actually not being inside the EU.
We just have 20 minutes remaining, so questions must be short, and I'll ask the Leader to be brief with their answers as well. Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Before scheduling legislation on the pathway to work changes, will she ensure that there is proper consultation with disabled people on the fiscal elements of the proposals, and also ensure that the government publish transition arrangements in full, their response to that before legislation is made?
Well, she's right to say, I know she's been campaigning on the welfare reform issues. I'm sure she will appreciate that we have committed to publishing legislation. We will be taking through a bill, and that will give us ample time to really debate and consider these issues and look in great detail at some of the aspects that are presented in the proposals. That does include, as she says, transitional arrangements, and we should absolutely be debating what those transitional arrangements are. We've produced the impact assessment, however what that says, in good time, so that members across this House can really consider all of the issues before we consider that primary legislation.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Tuesday, the 25th of March at Windsor Castle, His Majesty the King honoured George Kelly, making him an MBE in recognition of his dedication to the Royal British Legion. A former president of the Royal British Legion St Ives branch, George joined the Legion in 1982 after an incredible 42-year career as an RAF navigator. Aged 21, he'd been shot down during the Second World War and went on to take part in the Berlin airlift and the Suez crisis. At a sprightly 101 years old, he is known locally as the Poppy Man. Could I ask the Leader of the House and all members to join me in congratulating George on his achievement and his incredible life of dedication and service, and to make time in the parliamentary schedule to give thanks to all those who dedicate their lives volunteering for charity organisations in the help of others.
Yeah. Well, what a lovely tribute to George Kelly, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased to hear that, and absolutely join him in congratulating him on a very, very long life of dedication and service to this country, and thank him for bringing that to the floor of the House.
Captain Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I have previously raised in this House how the use of Operation Brock to queue freight lorries heading to Dover on the M20 causes disruption to large part of my constituency. My constituents are not against it being used as an emergency traffic calming measure, but have been extremely disappointed by the decision of Kent County Council and Kent and Medway Resilience Forum to routinely deploy it over the school holidays, this time lasting until 22nd of April. With the Leader will find a debate on traffic management so we can discuss how measures like Operation Brock should only be used as a last resort.
Well, we do understand the disruption and inconvenience caused when Operation Brock is deployed in Kent, and this is sometimes necessary, unfortunately. But I will ensure that a minister comes back to him about how this can be done in a more sensitive way, especially in the school holidays.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. When I met Great Western Railway earlier this week, we discussed how the Bristol to Gloucester service, half-hourly Bristol to Gloucester service, is vital not only for capacity at Yates Station, but also to serve the new station, which is due to open at Charfield in 2027. However, the current funding ends next year, and an extension is vital to bridging the gap. Will the Leader of the House raise this with the Transport Secretary and ensure a full impact assessment is carried out before this funding expires?
I will certainly ensure that a minister gives her a full response about the rail capacity in her constituency, and that any assessments of the damage caused are shared with her.
Jane Kirkham.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Renters' Rights Bill will help with curtailing Section 21 evictions to flip to holiday lets in Cornwall, but we still have a massive issue with second homes and particularly holiday lets in Cornwall. Could the Leader find out what progress the government is making with bringing in a registration or preferably licensing scheme for those holiday and short-term lets?
Well, we are, as she says, absolutely committed to introducing a short-term let registration scheme. I will get for her the latest estimation of delivery of that, and we are also abolishing the furnished holiday lets tax regime, both of which I know will be of great significance to her constituents.
Shaukat Adam.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the words of the legendary rock band 10cc, I don't like cricket, I love it. So, however, with reduced council budgets and annual park budgets falling by 14% over a decade, and the pressure on urban playing fields, meaning that we have lost 50% of playing fields to other developments, means that clubs in my constituency, like South Asian and Caribbean Cricket Club, who have provided strategically grassroots crickets to professional players, have now found themselves homeless. So will the Leader of the House schedule a debate to discuss the valuable contribution of grassroots sports and how they can be protected in the future by supporting organisations like the Better Future for Parks and Green Spaces? Thank you.
I'm a fan of cricket myself as well. It's something my children enjoy too. But he's absolutely right to identify how we've seen a diminution in cricket playing fields and cricket sports clubs and grassroots sports in particular over recent years. This government is absolutely committed to grassroots sports. We put extra money into that, and we're also putting extra money into local governments so that they can support the kind of measures he wants to see.
Phil Brickle.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My first job was working at Bolton Hospital. So will the Leader of the House join me in thanking the many staff at Bolton NHS Foundation Trust who between October 2024 and January 2025 have secured a drop in local waiting list of 2,447 patients? And after 14 years of neglect under the Conservatives, will the Leader find government time to discuss additional innovative solutions to bring waiting lists down even further?
Well, absolutely. I will join him in congratulating all those at Bolton NHS Foundation Trust for their amazing work in reducing waiting lists by over 2,000 in recent months. We've got further to go in reducing waiting lists, but I'm determined that this government will achieve its objectives.
Tom Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last weekend I attended the 9th Harrogate KTA Mayor's Cup Taekwondo tournament in my constituency. Over 400 people attended from across the UK and overseas, and it was a fantastic event. Master Ali, who runs the Taekwondo Academy, had to fund this event himself and couldn't find access to any funding. So will the Leader of the House, first of all, congratulate him on a fantastic and well-run event, but also look to make government time about support for grassroots sporting organisations?
Well, absolutely. I think the home of the home of UK Taekwondo is actually my constituency, so it's a sport I'm very familiar with. But as I said in a previous answer, we're very committed to supporting elite sport as well as grassroots sports in this country. I think we've got a debate later today, Madam Deputy Speaker, on these issues, but I'll certainly raise that with him.
Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week I visited the Gateshead District Energy Scheme, a groundbreaking project that uses geothermal energy from mine water in old coal workings to heat local homes and businesses. The scheme is the first of its kind in the UK, owned and operated by Gateshead Council. It's fantastic to see this legacy of our industrial past playing a pioneering role in decarbonisation. So can we have a debate in government time on the contribution that our coalfield communities are making to fighting climate change?
Well, what a fantastic initiative in her constituency, getting geothermal heat, providing heat and warmth to local homes and businesses through these local heat networks. And I'm sure a debate on such issues would be very popular indeed.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On the Muslim holy day of Eid, Ahmadiyya Muslim worshippers across Punjab and Sindh province in Pakistan face widespread obstruction in an effort to get to their place of worship. On the same day, authorities sealed 2 more mosques belonging to Ahmadiyya Muslims, making the total 10. 169 graves were desecrated at the same time, and 42 Ahmadiyya Muslims remain behind bars on faith-based charges. So will the Leader of the House request that the FCDO Secretary of State to call upon the international community to protect Ahmadi Muslim mosques, release all Ahmadi Muslims on fabricated charges, protect the Ahmadi Muslim graves, and uphold its obligations under the international human rights framework and uphold the rights and safety of all its citizens? Thank you.
Well, the British government condemns the persecution of Ahmadi Muslims in Pakistan, and we are aware of these recent reports of threats and incidents at holy sites. And I know, as ever, he raises a very important matter, which I will raise with the Minister for him.
Chris Blow.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Droitwich transmitter, commonly known as the Witchbold Maths in my constituency, celebrated their 90th birthday last year. The long-wave transmitter was used as a jamming device by the RAF, obstructing enemy transmissions trying to reach Luftwaffe aircraft approaching Britain, as well as playing a pivotal role on D-Day and communicating with the French resistance. Would the Leader of the House join me in calling for the masts to be strongly considered for listing by Historic England for their role in defending this nation?
Well, he's made a very strong case there for this mast to be listed as part of our history and the fantastic work that was done during the World Wars in making sure that we were protected.
There are 12 people and 10 minutes. You can do the maths. Keep your questions short. James Nash.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, on the 2nd of April, I received an unprompted letter from the Home Builders Federation, which said, and I quote, "A recent FOI request shows that Rushcliffe Borough Council holds £50 million of unspent developer contributions in total. That's the equivalent of £1,000 per household. It is the 5th biggest amount in the country on a per household basis and 4 times the national average. Nationally, there's £8 billion of developer contributions unspent in total. Does the Leader of the House agree with me that this is eye-watering sums of money not being spent on local infrastructure and local people? And will she ensure that the relevant ministry teams look into why this is happening?
Well, he raises a very important issue of unspent developer contributions. There really is no excuse for the kind of eye-watering levels and length of time it's taken for his local authority to deploy those, and he's made a very strong case here today.
Laura Kirkcaldy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the last year, there were more than 4,000 incidents of fly tipping in Buckinghamshire. I've been working with Thames Valley Police, who are increasing patrols in affected areas like Slapton and Ivinghoe-Aston, but it's not enough, and one resident says to me it's beyond a joke. Does the Leader agree with me that we have to do more to tackle fly tipping, and in particular, will she make space to debate tougher sanctions for those who continue to spoil our countryside and our villages in this way?
Well, we are absolutely committed to forcing fly tippers and vandals to clean up the mess that they have created. It's part of our crackdown on antisocial behaviour. There are further measures in the Crime and Policing Bill, and I look forward to debating those with her further.
Thank
you, Madam Deputy Speaker. 14 years of neglect from the party opposite left high streets like the one in Edgware in a shocking state. One common complaint my constituents have is that phone boxes on Edgware High Street have become derelict and are acting as a magnet for graffiti, vandalism and litter. I'm pleased to say that after lobbying BT, 2 of these unsightly phone boxes will now be removed. But there is much more work to be done. Will the Leader of the House agree to a debate in government time to map out the government's comprehensive plan to revive Britain's high streets?
Well, can I thank you for raising these important issues of around High Street in Edgware as well. I know from my time as a Member of Parliament that any debate on the future of phone boxes would be incredibly well attended if you wanted to apply for them.
Paul Davis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Recently I met constituents who are campaigning locally on improving care for those with Parkinson's. Next week we will observe World Parkinson's Day. This day helps raise awareness about this disease and its impact. Enhanced funding and support for research can lead to better treatments and potentially a cure. Can we have a debate in government time on the importance of research into Parkinson's?
Well, can I thank him for highlighting this important issue? It has been raised with me a number of times. I'm sure there would be a very well-attended debate, but we are committed to supporting those with Parkinson's. There's further we can go in terms of research and support, and I think a debate would be very well attended.
Josh Dean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. John Staines has volunteered with Hertford Town Football Club for 30 years. He's been a fan for 60 years. To mark his 93rd birthday, he wants to see 1,000 people attend Saturday's game against Flackwell FC. So will the Leader of the House join me in encouraging our residents to watch Saturday's game and in celebrating John for his outstanding contribution to the club over these years?
Well, absolutely. I'll join his and John Staines' calls to get 1,000 people down to Hertford Town FC this weekend. That would be a great tribute to his life, and I'm sure that the member might want to raise some of these issues when we debate the Football Governance Bill that's coming back after Easter.
Martin Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Under current passport application rules, an applicant needs a counter-signatory who has known them for at least 2 years and who is in good standing within their community or from a recognised profession. One of my constituents has faced a problem with these requirements due to losing contact with their social circle as a result of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Though in theory discretion exists in these rules, my constituent remains unable to get a passport. Will the Leader of the House allocate government time for a debate on ensuring passport accessibility?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the difficulties his constituent has. We want to make sure that people can easily and readily apply for a passport, which is absolutely vital identification document. We've got to do that in a way that makes sure we've got confidence in the system, but I'll certainly make sure the Minister looks into his case.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Recently I had the honour of attending Herefordshire Council's Provost Community Awards to celebrate the incredible contribution many make to our communities. Can the Leader of the House join me in congratulating the winners from Paisley and Renfrewshire South? Jean Gallagher, who has volunteered for 25 years at the Johnson Learning Centre, the Artastic Club, Obs Muay Thai Gym, and Craig Ferguson, who has raised many thousands of pounds for men's mental health.
Well, I'll absolutely join her in congratulating all the winners of her community awards, and she's given a great tribute to them today.
Douglas McAllister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my constituent, Jagtar Singh Johal, arbitrarily detained in India for 7.5 years now, was acquitted on the 4th of March of all charges against him in the first case against him to conclude. However, he has not been released because he is facing 8 other, essentially duplicate cases without the prospect of any credible evidence by the Indian prosecutors against him. Madam Deputy Speaker, time is of the essence. It's exactly 1 month since the verdict, and my constituent's family advise his conditions of detention have significantly deteriorated since the acquittal. Can I ask the Leader of the House to arrange for an urgent statement confirming our government is acting with the utmost urgency and that there is political will to push robustly for his immediate release, and recognise that now is the moment to bring him home to my constituency of West Dunbartonshire and his family in Dumbarton?
Well, my honourable friend has raised this issue with me and others many, many times, and I'm sure his constituent is really glad he's got him as his Member of Parliament in these difficult times. As I've said to him in previous answers, we want to see this case swiftly resolved, and I will absolutely ensure that the Minister discusses with him the latest in this case.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. New Life, a charity in my Cannock Chase constituency, provides specialist equipment to disabled children. In 2023 alone, they helped 1,524 children nationwide. They've told me of the challenges these children face in getting the right equipment at the right time. With the Leader of the House granted debate on the roles and responsibilities of health, social care, education services and the charity sector in ensuring disabled children receive the specialist equipment they need.
Well, he's absolutely right to say that we need to join up better all the different services and charities to make sure that disabled children get the equipment and the support that they desperately need, and I think this would make a really good topic for the...
Whereas, Madam Deputy Speaker, Wednesday last week was Epilepsy Awareness Day. My constituent Sarah contacted me about its acknowledgement in Parliament, and today I'm wearing a purple tie to mark epilepsy awareness. Will the Leader reassure Sarah and me that support for the hundreds of thousands of people who suffer with this challenging condition will remain at the heart of the Government's healthcare policy?
Well, can I thank him for raising Epilepsy Awareness Week with me today, and for wearing a purple tie and support his constituent Sarah too. He's raising a really another important issue, and tackling epilepsy and other health conditions is what this government's all about.
Andrew Cooper.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I recently attended the official opening of Her Place Charitable Trust's new hub in Winsford, using space generously provided by Weavervale Housing Trust. The hub will provide the charity with its first permanent base from where it can deliver services to support women and girls across Cheshire, including the community laundrette, drop-in clinics and friendship groups. Will the Leader join me in congratulating Her Place, not only on the opening of their new hub, but also on the invaluable work that they do in my area?
Well, I will join him in congratulating Her Place. It sounds like a really important hub in his constituency for women and girls to come together.
Final question, ever patient, David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Residents from Newchapel and Butt Lane in my constituency of Stoke-on-Trent North and Kidsgrove recently contacted me about inconsiderate pavement parking in their areas. One resident who has significant health issues fears ambulances will struggle to make it down her cul-de-sac, placing them at unacceptable risk. Would the Leader of the House make time for a debate on appropriate parking enforcement and resourcing requirements?
Well, parking always generates a very considerable debate in this House, and pavement parking would not be an exception to that. So I join him in raising that here today, and I'm sure it would make a very popular topic for debate.
I thank the Leader and colleagues for moving at pace, and we've got everybody in. I'll give the front benches a few moments to swap over.